Welcome back in this lecture series on pharmacological therapy, psychopharmacological therapy of various mental disorders. In the previous lecture, I discussed the psychopharmacological treatment of psychotic conditions and described the use of neuroleptics. Today, I will be discussing the pharmacological treatment of anxiety disorders and insomnia. For treating anxiety disorders, the medicines that are used are generally called anxiolytics or anti-anxiety drugs, and the medicines that have been reserved for treatment of insomnia are called hypnotics. Today I will discuss the anxiolytics and hypnotics, but the general approach is this pharmacological management of anxiety disorders and hypnotics. First, let us begin with anxiolytics. As I discussed, it is also called anti-anxiety drug, and sometimes it is called minor tranquilizers, and the neuroleptics are called major tranquilizers. This is old name. The anxiolytics can be classified into three categories. The earlier classes of medicines that were used for managing anxiety disorders. Then later on, benzodiazepines were introduced for treatment of anxiety related disorders. Sometimes I will abbreviate at BZ. And then non-benzodiazepine, non-BZ. And for managing anxiety, sometimes selected antidepressants are also used. For example, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors called SSRI and some tricyclic antidepressants are also used for treatment or management of anxiety and related disorders. The earlier classes of medicines that were used for managing anxiety and anxiety related disorders includes barbiturates, carbamates, noradrenergic agents, and antihistamines. But nowadays, these medicines are not used for managing or treating anxiety related disorders. And there are several reasons why they are not prescribed. Barbiturates and carbamates are outdated and they have very strong addictive potential. If one patient or an individual start taking these medicines, they become addictive of those medicines, they become dependent on those medicines. And the second point is that there is an overdose potential. If you take the medicine more than the prescribed dose, then sometimes it may be fatal also. And therefore, these medicines are now not in practice. Similarly, non-adrenergic agents, they are also not used for treating anxiety-related disorders nowadays. These include calcium channel blockers, e.g. clonidine, beta blockers, for example, propranolol. But these medicines are used today, but not for treating anxiety-related disorders. For example, the beta blocker is used, particularly the propranolol, as treatment of performance anxiety and social failure. Whereas the clonidine is frequently used as an adjunct in treatment of ADD or ADHD, attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorders. So these are the earlier classes of medicines, the four classes that were used. Antihistamines I have not discussed. They are basically nowadays you use it for other things. For example, in chronic cough condition, allergic condition, antihistamines are used, but they are not used. They are having sedative effects. Therefore, they were used for managing anxiety in earlier days. Now, antihistamines are also coming without sedation effects. The earlier antihistamine, for example, many of you will be knowing Avil. Avil is an antihistamine that was having a sedative effect. If you take Avil, you will feel sedated and you will feel sleepy. So these antihistamines were also used in earlier days for managing anxiety related symptoms, but they are not now used for this. They are used for other medical conditions. So for managing anxiety, then only two classes of medicines are used. One is the benzodiazepine group and the other is non-benzodiazepine. In benzodiazepine, there are many drugs that has been introduced. I have listed some commonly used and those names that probably most of us also know. For example, alprazolam, chlordiazepam oxide. These are the salt name. So you can say this are the generic names: diazepam, clonazepam, helazepam, oxazepam, lorazepam, trazepam, and there are many other new medicines are being introduced by the researchers. New salts are coming in benzodiazepine groups. These benzodiazepines, there are several benzodiazepines, but for ease, we can classify it into different categories depending on the pharmacokinetics of the benzodiazepine drugs. And there are two ways to classify. One on the basis of the elimination half-life that I defined in my first lecture, that the time taken for a medicine to reduce its presence in the plasma by half. So suppose if you have taken 10 mg or the plasma concentration is say 10, and in 5 hours this concentration reduces to 5 mg or 5, then we will say that 5 hours is the half life. If it reduces to half in say 10 hours, then 10 hours is the half life. If it reduces in 7 days to half of the total full concentration, then it will be called 7 days half life. So on the basis of half life of medicines, the benzodiazepines can be classified as short acting. The half life is generally of 9 hours. Example of one salt is oxazepam. This is just one example. Short to intermediate acting, 18 to 50 hours. So these medicines will start acting when you take the medicines, but their effect will reduce after 9 hours or say 50 hours, like that. Long acting medicines, their half life is generally between 24 to 48 hours. For example, diazepam having a 40 hours half life, prazepam having 60 hours half life. So if you take one medicine, say one tablet of prazepam, it will remain active in controlling your anxiety symptoms for 60 hours. But if you take oxazepam, it will work for 9 hours. So after 9 hours, its effect will start reducing and it will disappear. So on the basis of this, the choice should be that short acting drugs are used, then the chance of withdrawal effect is very high. For example, if the half life is 9 hours and if you skipped one dose, suppose you are taking the medicine for 3 times or 2 times per day, then after 9 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, you will start again feeling the anxiety. or other withdrawal symptoms. On the other hand, if you are taking long acting drugs like Prazipam 60 hours, then its effect will be so uh, its effect will be in magnitude very high. So the hangover will be there. You will feel sedated even after waking up. So the choice is depending on the condition, whether the condition requires short acting medicine or long acting medicine. Similarly, the classification of benzodiazepines can be done on the basis of the rate of absorption, how quickly it is absorbed by the body. So, some medicines are very rapidly absorbed. So, those medicines that are rapidly absorbed, for example, diazepam, their effect will become evident very soon. There are other medicines which are having intermediate absorption rate like alprazolam, chlordiazepoxide. So it will take some time, say a few hours to show its effect. And there are some medicines which are very having slow absorption rate like prazipam. So prazipam is having very high half life 60 hours but very slow absorption rate. So for treating suppose chronic anxiety, you can use prazipam because if the patient forgets to take medicine, the effect of the drug will be present, but it will take time to show its effect. Once it is started, since the half life is 60 hours and you have taken several doses, then the effect of medicine will always be present. And if you skip the medicine, it will not influence much. So the choice depends on these two classification. The rapid drugs produces therapeutic effects more quickly, and slow drugs take long to produce the therapeutic effects. Thus, the choice depends on the therapeutic goal, what we want. If the goal is to achieve quick sedation and for short time period, say for a few days, you want to prescribe benzodiazepines, then one should choose rapid and short acting drugs. So, in acute anxiety, if you will prescribe rapid, it will start controlling the anxiety immediately. And if the half life is short, then when we will discontinue the medicine, the addictive potential will be less. But for long acting medicines, the addictive potential is very high. But if the medicine is required to continue for a long period, then medicines with greater half life should be chosen. For example, I discussed the example of chronic anxiety. Now come to the indications, and remember, as I said, these medicines are sensitive to symptoms, and any psychopathological conditions that involve these symptoms, these medicines will be active. But generally, they are attributed to certain specific disorder. For example, the anxiolytics are used for treating anxiety and related disorders, but they are sensitive to the symptoms of anxiety. For example, fear, tension, worries, motor tension, autonomic hyperactivity, rapid heartbeat, or other physical symptoms, apprehensive expectations, and any other symptoms of anxiety is present, then anxiolytics will be helpful. It will help to manage those symptoms. But in terms of diagnostic categories or disorders, anxiety is one of the indications. These medicines are used to manage anxiety. Insomnia can also be managed. However, there are medicines reserved for treating insomnia. So, in general, it is advised not to prescribe benzodiazepines reserved for treating anxiety related disorders for insomnia, but it works on insomnia also. For panic disorder, these anxiety medicines, anxiolytic medicines can be used. Preoperative anesthesia. So you might have observed that when patients are going to the operation theater one day before or 2 days before, the anesthesia expert they prescribe some anxiolytic medicines to reduce the stress and anxiety and of the patient. These medicines can also be used for managing the withdrawal signs and syndromes of alcohol. Some medicines have been found experimentally to work on signs and symptoms of depression, but they are not generally prescribed for this. For example, alprazolam has been found to have some effect in alleviating depressive symptoms, but they are not used for depression. Social phobia is one indication of anxiolytics. In some experimental conditions, the clonazepam has also been used in bipolar 1 disorders. Clonazepam is basically an anticonvulsant type of benzodiazepine, and it has been found effective in some conditions, but these are experimental medicines, not specifically recommended for these. Etiazolam is also a very short acting uh, medicine having a very short half life that is used for treating acute anxiety and problem in sleep. Now come to the mode of action. How these medicines work, the benzodiazepines, how they affect how they target the symptoms of anxiety, by what biological neurophysiological mechanisms. Basically, it works on benzodiazepine receptors, and these benzodiazepine receptors are very closely linked with GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. The benzodiazepine binds with specific receptors on GABA and increases the affinity of the GABA, and thereby it shows some therapeutic effect. Basically, it works on two subtypes of benzodiazepine receptors. One is called BZ1 or omega 1, and the other receptor is called benzodiazepine 2 receptor or omega 2 receptors. And these two receptor sites have different uh, actions. BZ1 receptors are involved in regulation of sleep, whereas the omega 2 or BZ2 receptors are involved in cognition, memory, and motor control. So, let me conclude here that when we take benzodiazepine, since it is working on both the receptors BZ1 and BZ2, and therefore the benzodiazepines also helps in treating insomnia because it is regulating the sleep also. And the chronic use of benzodiazepine may impair the cognition and memory because they are working on BZ2 receptors, omega 2 receptors, which are closely linked with cognition and memory. And I will tell in next slides also that benzodiazepines, when they are prescribed, you feel that your muscles are relaxed, so your motor coordination becomes impaired because they are working on the BZ2 receptors and relaxing the motor control also. So therefore, caution is given by the doctor that if you are taking these medicines, don't drive, don't involve yourself in some activities that require alertness or vigilance. Why? Because they are working on BJ2 receptors and reducing your motor control. Now, the another class of anxiolytic is non-benzodiazepine anxiolytic. I will discuss just one. For example, azapirone or buspirone is one medicine that is in this class. The buspirone is generally used for chronic anxiety and panic disorder, and it takes 2 to 4 weeks for action. So it is not like benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines generally they start working when you start taking the medicine. Their effects become visible soon. But these medicines take a little longer to show its therapeutic effect. But the benefit is that they are non-sedating and non-addictive. Various studies have shown that they are not having any addictive potential or the chance of developing dependence. This is one plus point. Second, they also do not impair the motor coordination. So it will manage your anxiety and you can participate in your day-to-day activities that requires vigilance, alertness. Further, it is not having very sedative effect, and therefore when you take this medicine with alcohol, it does not potentiate the effect of alcohol. Generally benzodiazepines, I will discuss in the next slides, they are not advised to be taken with alcohol because those benzodiazepines will potentiate the effect of alcohol. On the other hand, these medicines like buspirone, they do not potentiate the effect of alcohol. So these are the plus point, these are the advantages of non-benzodiazepine anxiolytics. But the negative side is that it will take 2 to 4 weeks of action. So if the conditions allows, then we can use these medicines for chronic condition, though it will take a little time. Patient will have to wait for its effects to be perceived, but when it will start working, it will not impair your day-to-day activities by impairing your motor coordination or sedating you or even influencing your uh, day-to-day habits like taking alcohol. The limitations of this class of drug includes that it does not prevent BZ withdrawal. So you cannot use buspirone to manage the withdrawal symptoms of benzodiazepines. And it is also not suitable for treatment that requires immediate effect because the person has to wait for 2 to 4 weeks to observe its action. As far as the mode of action of this benzodiazepine, non-benzodiazepine anxiolytic is concerned, it is unknown. Very specific pathways are not known. But researchers show that this medicine shows very strong affinity with serotonin and some moderate affinity with dopamine D2 receptors. But how they actually work, they work by influencing serotonin and D2 receptors, or some other mechanisms are also involved, is not known. And therefore, sometimes this medicine is also classified as atypical. Atypical, when I will use this term, the atypical pharmacological agents are those whose mode of actions are not specifically known. They work from different channels. So let me recap at this stage that for treating anxiety and related disorders, there were some earlier classes of medicines like antihistamines, noradrenergic agents, but they are not in use, and therefore benzodiazepines were introduced. And after benzodiazepines, some non-benzodiazepine anxiolytics were introduced that can be considered an improvement in a sense that they are not having the undesirable effects of the benzodiazepines like sedation, impairment of motor coordination, and others. Now, For treating anxiety, the antidepressants are also used. For example, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors or serotonin reuptake inhibitors are used for treating anxiety. Initially, it was introduced for antidepressant, but later it was found that it has anxiolytic effect also, and it also works on obsessive compulsive disorder. And therefore, any condition involving anxiety related symptoms or OCD related symptoms, the antidepressant SSRI can be prescribed. But limitation of SSRI as anxiolytic is that it may produce agitation syndrome. So you may feel more anxiety sometimes, more active, more alert, difficulty in sleeping. All these taken together are called agitation syndrome, and thus may have adverse effect for certain patients, because many patients of anxiety are having problem in sleeping also. So this agitation syndrome is likely to occur with use of SSRI. Similarly, if insomnia is a major concern, SSRI cannot be prescribed because they are not having sedation effects. They do not produce sedation. Therefore, they will not be helpful when anxiety is associated with insomnia. So, if sedation or is required or insomnia is also a concern, then some other antidepressants can be used. For example, trazodone. It can be used. Trazodone is an antidepressant. It is not in SSRI class, but it can be used to manage anxiety as well as the condition of insomnia. So there are other antidepressants from tricyclic class that can also be used or that have been used for managing anxiety. But these medicines are specifically reserved for treatment of depression, but they have been used. So for managing anxiety pharmacologically, we have different options. Leave the classical earlier ones because they are having severe problems and issues. So we have at least three classes of pharmacological agents. One is the benzodiazepine group of medicine, the other is non-benzodiazepine group of medicine like buspirone, and the third one is antidepressant that includes the tricyclic antidepressants as well as SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So these are the major pharmacological agents. But there are some major concerns with the use of benzodiazepines. First, sedation. It will, all benzodiazepines have very strong sedative effect. So you will feel sleepy, drowsy throughout the day, and they may impair your day-to-day activity. Similarly, almost all the benzodiazepines have the chances of habituation or dependence. You may become dependent on that, you may become addict of those medicines. So this is another major concern, and therefore many practitioners prescribe that benzodiazepines should be used only and only when it becomes essential. I will discuss this also. If we are using short acting, then withdrawal, breakthrough, or recurrence of the symptoms are likely, as discussed earlier, because after few hours their effect will start wearing off and leveling off, and therefore the symptoms will start recurring and you will feel difficulty. If you are using long acting, then hangover, as I discussed earlier, that will be possible. Even after waking up, you will feel sedative effect. Another issue or concern with benzodiazepine, if you abruptly stop taking benzodiazepines, then withdrawal will occur, and that withdrawal symptoms includes the insomnia, recurrence of the or rebound anxiety. You can say you will feel more anxious when you suddenly stop taking these medicines, and there are other signs and symptoms of withdrawal. Cognitive impairment, if you are using for long term, then cognitive impairment is also likely. I discussed this earlier because the benzodiazepines act on omega 2 or BJ2 receptors, which are linked with cognition and memory. And psychomotor retardation may also occur again because of the omega 2 receptor sensitivity. These medicines work on omega 2, which regulates the motor coordination and motor control. So, long term use may result in psychomotor retardation. Therefore, there are some general rules for prescription of benzodiazepine group of anxiolytics. We should take care while prescribing the benzodiazepines as anxiolytics. First, as far as possible, benzodiazepines should be avoided. Some other alternative treatment can be taken to control anxiety, including psychotherapy. If use becomes necessary, then use the smallest possible dose and for a very short time of period so that addiction may not occur. If anxiety is the only concern, then we can use the antidepressants like SSRI and other antidepressants which are having less addictive potentials, and these medicines may be used for managing anxiety. So if these medicines are not working, then it becomes necessary, and when it becomes necessary, then use in the smallest possible dose. Since SSRI is non-addictive and are not CNS depressant, not they having sedative effect, they can be used for chronic anxiety also. But if insomnia is the major concern, then SSRI should be avoided. We can go for some other antidepressant like trazodone. Here the spelling is not correct, TRA. So R is missing here. Now let us come to the other class of medicines, hypnotics. Hypnotics are those medicines that are used to manage insomnia or treat insomnia or sleep related disorders. Broadly, hypnotics can also be classified in two classes like we have classified the anxiolytics, the benzodiazepine groups and non-benzodiazepine groups. In non-BZ, zolpidem is one example and it is most commonly used one for treating insomnia and sleep related disorders. In benzodiazepine group, these are some examples which have been approved by the FDA. Estrazolam, flurazepam, quazepam, tenazepam, and triazolam. These are also benzodiazepines, so they will have similar effect. They will also work on BZ1 and BZ2, and therefore they have the anxiolytic effects also. But these medicines have been reserved for treating insomnia and sleep related disorders. Other medicines have also been used but not approved as hypnotics, includes barbiturates and their derivatives. These are again the earlier classes, and antihistamines. But nowadays these medicines are not used. So similar to the three classes that I discussed for anxiolytics, there are three classes. These are the earlier medicines that are now not in use, and these are the medicines that are used nowadays. One is of the benzodiazepine group and another is of non-benzodiazepine. But before prescribing hypnotics, there are certain conditions that needs to be ruled out. First, we have to rule out that the insomnia or sleep difficulty is not a co-occurring symptom of other disorder. There are many disorders that may create difficulties in sleeping, and such insomnia will be called secondary insomnia. For example, if you are substance abuser, any person is abusing substance and stops taking medicines, then withdrawal syndrome may occur, and that withdrawal will include insomnia also. So it is better to treat the withdrawal and not prescribe hypnotics for insomnia. Similarly, various medical conditions may be reason for the reported insomnia. For example, various cardiovascular conditions, including hypertension, may lead to difficulties in sleeping and insomnia. So, if it is secondary to hypertension or other medical conditions, then those medical conditions should be treated first. And if that condition will be treated, insomnia will automatically be treated. So there is no need. So we have to rule out if these are present, we will not prescribe hypnotics. Side effect of other medicines, for example, I said that SSRI can introduce agitation syndrome, that is high anxiety and insomnia. So if it is a side effect of other medicine, then that side effect should be managed by switching to other antidepressants and reducing the side effect, and not prescribing hypnotics. If any of the conditions cannot be ruled out, then one should not prescribe hypnotics for treating insomnia. The primary medical condition or psychological condition, some psychological disorders may also lead to insomnia. So those psychological disorder or medical disorders on which insomnia is dependent, secondary, that should be treated first, and hypnotics should not be prescribed. So before prescribing hypnotics, these conditions should be ruled out. One should focus on the treatment of primary cause of insomnia and not prescribe hypnotics. Again, major concerns, they are almost same because they are also benzodiazepines, but I am just introducing a few. The CNS depressant effect, that includes cognitive functioning after long use, impairment in cognitive functions. They may cause depressive symptoms, sometimes psychomotor impairment, myorelaxant effect. So these are some concerns with hypnotics, habituation potential and withdrawal, and all those major concerns that I discussed with the benzodiazepines, they should be brought here. So those are also the major concerns with hypnotics. So I am not repeating it here. So some cautions and guidelines are prescribed for using hypnotics, and we should take care of that. It should not be used with alcohol or other CNS depressant because it will potentiate the effect of alcohol. Alcohol itself is a CNS depressant, and when we will add with hypnotics, it may be harmful for the person. When a person is taking hypnotics, he should be advised to not to perform activities that requires alertness or vigilance, such as driving or using some machines in their work that requires alertness or vigilance. Like anxiolytics, as far as possible, use of hypnotics should be avoided, and non-pharmacological hypnotic strategies should be used. And where I'm using hypnotic, then it means the strategy that helps in inducing sleep. It should not be confused with the psychotherapeutic intervention hypnosis. So, the strategies that can make a person feel relaxed, like meditation, yoga, changing lifestyle, exercise, these can help one to get a good sleep. There are many strategies. For example, taking a glass of lukewarm milk at the bedtime has been found to help in getting good sleep, apart from this meditation and yoga. If such strategies are not effective, then one can use those medicines that have sedative effect but not having addictive potential. For example, trazodone, the antidepressant that I discussed earlier, that has a strong sedative effect and we can use it in subclinical dose and it may help to get a good sleep. But if all these strategies are not working, the hypnotic becomes essential, then again one should prescribe it in the lowest possible dose and for a very short period of time so that the dependency on those medicines do not develop and therefore the subsequent withdrawal and other issues also do not occur. And once it started, remember, it should never be discontinued abruptly because abrupt discontinuation is very likely to introduce the withdrawal syndromes that may be problematic and difficult for the patients. So, slow tapering is required. Despite all these cautions and guidelines, if we are bound to prescribe hypnotics or anxiolytics of the benzodiazepine class, then it is likely that some patients may develop the benzodiazepine dependence. And whenever these benzodiazepines or hypnotics will be discontinued, they will feel withdrawal symptoms. So there are some pharmacological strategies also to deal with benzodiazepine withdrawals, hypnotic withdrawals. As discussed earlier, this withdrawal syndrome may include insomnia, rebound anxiety, stress, loss of appetite, and in severe conditions, dissociative symptoms also. And sometimes more severe symptoms, including hallucinations, may also occur. That depends on the severity of the withdrawal syndrome. So, if such withdrawal syndromes occur after discontinuation of the use of benzodiazepines or hypnotics, then the general strategy is to switch the medicine and then gradually start tapering the second medicine. For example, if a patient is taking chlordiazepoxide for anxiety related conditions and when it is discontinued he or she feels withdrawal syndrome, then chlordiazepoxide should be switched to some other medicines. And generally, two medicines are generally used for switching. One is diazepam and another is clonazepam. They are most preferred switching medicines. So, gradually, the medicine will be switched to diazepam or clonazepam, and then those clonazepam or diazepam will be started tapering down. We will reduce the dose week by week slowly. And when we are doing this switching and tapering, supportive psychotherapy, counseling, and psychoeducation is required because the client may not be aware how this pharmacological management works. As I said, the diazepam and clonazepam are two most widely used drugs because both are having a longer half-life and the clonazepam is having no metabolites. So these medicines help a lot. So thanks a lot. I would like to recap that for treating anxiety and related disorders, benzodiazepines are one of the preferred class of medicines because they act rapidly. But non-benzodiazepines have advantage as they are not having sedative effect, impairment of motor coordination, and other difficulties like addiction associated with benzodiazepine groups. But they take longer to treat the anxiety conditions. Similarly, for treating insomnia, there are some benzodiazepines reserved for that and they are used, but they should be used when it becomes ultimately necessary to prescribe them. Thanks a lot. Next lecture will cover antidepressant